So anyway, first episode, Mad Dad City is Rich. It's Christian. Yeah. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna talk about?
Man, lots to talk about. I tell you, I just talked to my wife, Marie, talking about schools, man, and school shootings. Huh.
Okay.
It's something when your wife leaves to work, your kids go to school, and I'm a praying guy.
Yep.
But you realize you got to pray just for them to come back home, you know. And it used to be where I grew up in Southern California. You had to worry about going to inner city schools,
Yep.
and maybe gang violence or something like
Yep.
that would cause a school shooting, a school stabbing, a school beating, a school something. But now it's the wealthy schools.
It's anywhere.
Some kid is just not getting his way. He's being bullied.
Yep.
Personally, I think we're very soft on these kids now, and we don't allow them to fail to learn how to pick themselves back up. And so then you mix in some video games, which I'm cool with, but man, some of these video games now, DR, like I don't even know the name of them, but the name of them could be kill that guy. I mean,
Might as well be.
There's no like levels.
The video game is mass shootings.
Right. Like Zelda, you had to
Yeah.
hit your levels and things of that nature to go on and on. But Contra, you even had levels.
I was just gonna say Contra. Yeah.
But now it's just you get on, you turn it on, and here's a gun, and just go kill.
Extra realistic. Hey, you're in a combat situation. Here's the enemy.
And I used to laugh at that, D, when they talked about like NWA. You remember when we were growing up, NWA was bad. That music it's minimizing life. It's not holding a. It's crazy.
So, did you see Michael Che? I think it was a tweet or an Instagram post or something. It was like, "Hey, I know how to fix this gun shooting issue. Anyone trans, let's just start doing ads with guns so that everybody will want to cancel the guns."
Right. There you go.
Which I thought was funny.
Yeah, very.
I mean, not a funny situation at all. However,
Right.
An insightful comedic comment that I appreciated for sure.
Well, and it's like you can't even talk about it. There's no outlets either anymore. Like even the premise of this podcast, just two dads getting it out.
Mad Dad City. So I got Mad Dad's stories. But dude, on the school shootings, it's horrific. I'm desensitized to it. I'll see a school shooting. I say, that sucks. I will absolutely try to send some sort of positive thought. I'll say a prayer. I don't know what to do. I know that it's going to be on the headlines for 24 to 48 hours and nothing's going to change.
Nothing.
And so I've just sort of unfortunately accepted that, and that's part of the reality. And dude, it's spooky. I mean, we lived in Denver. There was a theater shooting a couple minutes away where we went to movies at, right?
Is that the cat with the red hair that
That was the Batman shooting.
Yes.
I forget his name. I knew people that were supposed to go to that showing. One guy I worked with, he showed up to work the next morning and he was ghost white, like ghosted. I'm like, dude, what's wrong? And he was explaining the situation. His two buddies that he was supposed to go with to that movie, he just went to an earlier showing with a different friend, but he had a ticket to the one that they went to. They weren't answering their phones. They didn't make it out. His two friends went to the movie and never came back out. You know what I'm saying? Of the 30 or so, I forget the number, but like 20 or 30 people that were killed. And that was right down the street from us. And man, that stuff's for real. And every time there was a school shooting or a theater shooting or something, I'm like, damn, if everybody else has guns, I need to go get some guns too. Like I have a shotgun. That's all I got. I don't even have any shotgun shells. So like I'm ill prepared for the zombie release of zombies or the zombie apocalypse. But if everybody's got guns, I think I need to go get them too, even though I'm anti-gun. Like I wanted to have a gun with me at work after that.
Right.
Or no, not after that. A few weeks later, this didn't hit the headlines while we were there, but there was a school shooting in Denver, but where the kid walked in, like shot his girlfriend and like killed a teacher, like killed a girl and then killed his teacher. If I get this, I can't remember exactly. There might have been one more kid killed or something. And then he killed himself. The kid, his dad worked in my office and his desk was like 40 feet away. And so before I knew any of this, I was walking back into my office and I saw him. I think if I remember correct, his name was Mark. I was like, "Hey, Mark," and he just like the other dude, Denny, had looked like he'd seen a ghost. What he had just heard was he heard what happened, and so he was leaving, and obviously he didn't acknowledge me or nothing. He just got the hell out of there. I never saw him again. But we all learned it, and that's when I was like, "Dude, I need a gun at work. What if that kid was mad at his dad, and his dad worked right down there, and he just saw me first?" You know what I'm saying? Like, damn. So that shit always happens, man, in like the school shootings. But I don't know. I need to look into getting guns, but I don't really want to.
And the crazy thing is, if you get a gun, a buddy of mine once told me, military guy, he said, you can have all the guns in the world, but
yeah,
somebody has a rock or a knife and they get the drop on you.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
What do you? I mean,
I don't. Yeah, no, I don't want to get guns. I think the only reason I would love to need guns, it's not for the one-time intruder that I think I would need a gun for. Obviously, you'd want to have a gun if someone breaks into your home and you're here. But it's more of if society just falls apart, and then you're walking around your house with guns because imagine if there's no. Imagine if there's no groceries at Hy-Vee or Walmart and you can't get them delivered. This place turns very different within 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's for real. And so that's the only thing on the back of my mind is like, man, I need to be armed, and I have no, I don't think hardly anybody does. I have no like emergency supply. We have a few canned goods. We'd make it days.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Can you imagine that? And everyone else around, all of a sudden, the people with guns are the ones in charge.
Right.
And if you don't have a gun, man, you better be very good at something else that helps the sustainability of whatever's going on. And
I got some jokes.
There we go.
Well, what's funny is COVID. I was always anti-gun. I growing up in Southern California, man, I seen. I didn't see somebody get shot, but, I viewed bodies that were shot in alleys.
Yep. Okay.
I knew people that didn't come to school the next day because they got shot. I had friends that shot other people and you never saw them again. They're serving life in prison right now. Probably the saddest thing I seen growing up, I had a family member who literally, got her head blown off.
Damn.
Young, I believe she was 14, 15 when that happened. Another guy, he was on his way to Utah to play football. His own cousin shot him. Didn't want to let him go to school, which it's just weird. There's no good reason for that. But living through all that, D, the thing that got me saying, okay, I'm gonna get armed to the tilt was COVID. Because everything you just described about the grocery stores, motherfucker can't get toilet paper. What's up with that?
Remember when Texas froze over, though? Like the whole state turned into a sheet of ice, basically. And instantly, it was a mad dash for just drinking water.
And see what I don't get, and this gets into me and my wild thinking. Why in the fuck are we going to the moon and we don't have stuff taken care of down here? To me, those kind of things, and I get the exploration. You want to find out about different things, but come on now, the moon?
Yeah.
Take care. We should have an oh shit button down in Texas. Oh, okay. Boom.
That was mine. Whereas like we're far more vulnerable as a society than I think 99% of people really consider, right? We're distracted with sports, entertainment, social media, whatever the case is. Take a selfie of myself, post it. How many likes do I get? Whatever the case is, right? Then we are taking a step back being, damn, like that could happen here. And what's my plan if it does? And where do we go? Like where's my escape pod to get my family to somewhere safe? I don't have any of that in place. I bet you most dads don't.
Do you have a generator?
No.
and I've been thinking about getting one, but it's like,
yeah,
I could use that $5,000 for something else. You know what I mean?
I got a list of things I need to get. A generator is on there, and I haven't gotten it yet.
But what's crazy is then you get a generator, and we talk about this apocalypse type situation. Your house is probably going to be the first one to get. Oh, they got heat, and is that bacon?
Yeah. Dude, man, I mean, look, you can break in any of the windows around the house. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a good situation to think of. My plan would be get one of those, you know, Sprinter vans. I got family of 5 and a dog and a cat. You know, I would keep the dog and a cat in case we got real hungry. I mean, if you're talking about survival mode,
Right.
you know, kids, Roscoe didn't quite make it.
Right.
You know, but we're good for the next week.
Right. Right. Right.
So, but it's either electric or you got enough gas to get 600 to 1,200 miles somewhere.
Yeah.
And obviously, you only take your essentials, and then you got to have some freeze dried, like astronaut food that you can survive on for whatever the period of time is until you can find something sustainable. I don't know how to farm. I don't have any animals. I couldn't plant. I mean, I'm sure I could if I had I've never really done it before, planted vegetables or corn or whatever and harvested food. I've never done that before.
But even with that, there's this thing called time.
Yeah, no
You
doubt.
know?
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't have a whole season
Right.
to grow stuff.
Right.
So, yeah, man, and I just think that we're far more vulnerable as a society to something like that occurring, whether it's a natural disaster, whether it's some sort of like EMP device that just shuts down everything that we're used to, and then nothing works on the grid. You know, you can't the entire supply of everything we depend on would shut down if all of a sudden the grid doesn't work, and then you can't monitor inventories and just the whole thing shuts down.
Well, and I tell you, one of the things that, you know, just kind of during the week, you hear different news stories or whatnot, but quiet as it's kept, man. Did you see Russia? No, it's not Russia. China, maybe it was Russia, and Saudi Arabia, they are no longer trading in the U.S. dollar.
I think I saw a headline about this. Yep.
And maybe not a big deal, but it definitely, I think it is a definite sign of our lack of domination that we've had over the last
10, 20, whatever it is, or just China's 50-year plan.
I'm going to say World War II.
World War II. Okay.
You know, we've been dominant, but you look at what's kind of taken place since World War II and just our country's history, you know, things like, oh, you don't farm? Oh, you don't. These are things that as a society we did. People had, I don't want to say a treasure chest, but they had a pantry full of goods, food that they have stored up that they grew. They, you know, people
Sure.
used to can their vegetables, their fruits.
Yep.
You know, we've gotten so kind of like we were talking about.
We've gotten so specialized
Well, not even
in
specialized.
what we know and can do.
I would say not specialized, but like pampered.
Oh, okay.
Pampered. You know, there's my father-in-law is a farmer down in Butler County, Kansas, and one of the stories he's told me, he's got a lot of doozies, but the one he told me, and he was pissed off, like, and I was like, hey man, calm down. He's like, no man. He said I was talking to a young man, and they got to talking about farming, and my father-in-law he's a very wise old man, and he really tries to give away knowledge when he can, but he was talking to a young guy, and the guy said, you know, what do I need to farm for? I got a grocery store.
Yeah, now you're hitting on it. Yep.
And it's like my father-in-law was like he felt disrespected because this is what he's done his whole life. But at the same time, he's like, man, I feel bad for our upcoming generations if that's the mindset that you don't need a farm, you need you just have a grocery store, not realizing all the work that goes into getting that food to the grocery store.
Yep.
And we live like that. Our kids get participation trophies for everything. Durable. How does this make sense? We go out to Phoenix. There's a 20-team tournament, right? Mm-hmm. And the top 5 team or the top 6 teams get to compete.
Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here.
Roscoe's like,
Get
I
out
want
of
in.
here.
I want in.
Get over there. Hey. Sit.
Like,
Oh, he knows he's in trouble. Keep talking, man. I'll be right back.
But there's like 6 teams qualify to get the main trophy. And then the other 12, 13 teams compete and play just as long as everybody else to win the consolation trophy. Like, man, if you can't qualify for the top, go home. Like, go home. That's how it should
Yeah.
be. But it's like now we don't reward hard work. We don't reward success. Hell, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day about like the pretty woman, the naturally pretty woman. Think how much stock the naturally pretty woman has lost over the last 20 years. You can look like a troll, a gremlin.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah. You can catfish your way up.
Oh my
Whatever you
God.
wanna
And
do.
then don't have a couple of racks in the bank. You can go
Yeah.
redo your whole thing. And it's like, okay, you still realize though when you have kids, they're going to come out looking like troglodytes, right? You still get that, right? But it's like the naturally pretty woman is no longer, I think about, I'm showing my age here, our age here, but I think about like Daisy Duke and
Yeah,
the Dukes
you,
of
you
Hazzard.
got you got a lot of years on me, dude. So don't go there.
Daisy Duke,
Okay.
Wonder Woman.
Was Daisy Duke? That's Dukes of Hazzard, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Wonder Woman, Linda, was it Linda Carter? Anyway, these were naturally beautiful women.
Okay.
And it's like, and the one that just passed away, Raquel Welch. Naturally beautiful women. But now, dime a dozen now because everybody can look like that. And so now we don't, there's no value on anything. Even our dollar has
But it's
no,
also trying to think with everybody having the ability to have their own platform via whatever social media platform they choose. There's and you can certainly put on a filter and improve your looks, right? Modify your picture and your content. But there's also the ability for more women that wouldn't have been discovered in the first place to just do it themselves and then, obviously modify their pictures potentially a little bit. And then still, to your point, increase the quantity of the exposure of that line of entertainment, I suppose. It's very, very distracting. But yeah, I see your point.
it's just that there's no value on anything of value. And the one thing I'm big on right now is, we're sitting here, Mad Dad City, is the family. Like there's no value on family anymore. I'm not talking just family. I'm talking about the natural order of family. I'm going to preface this next statement with, please don't get mad at me, but none of us got here through a penis. Okay? None of us. And so that's not to say one lifestyle is wrong or right. I'm just talking facts with you right now. And there's something to be said about a man and a woman raising a family. There's something to be said, and that doesn't mean that two can't raise a family together, but there is no, to me, if you're going to have a family, and I don't care if you've got two of the same sex, I just think families should get such a tax credits. I mean, and I'm not talking, 2,500. Man, if you're raising kids, man, give me 10 grand. Like, and allow families to be families, but it's like whoever's driving the wheel of America right now is saying, family's not important. And so that's why families don't stick together. And then when you do that, it erodes the rest of society.
I think pressures on the modern day family are at a different level than they were 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Both parents having to work puts pressure on the family immediately right there, right?
Absolutely.
You don't have someone, whether it's the man or the woman or whoever staying at home and just kind of keeping that organized while someone else is bringing stuff in. That's a big time challenge, man. We're lucky in my case where I get to work from home, so I'm around most of the time, and Sybil's got some flexibility. Oops, shouldn't use the name. Whatever the case, that's all good. But yeah, dude, I guess we can use the name. Both of our viewers are going to be very upset at a lot of the content here. Yeah, man. So along those lines, I'm happy and supportive of whoever wants to go do whatever they want to do to make themselves happy, man. I got no problems. Gay friends, whatever the case is, go be you, man. It's all love. The only problem I really or the only question from an ignorant viewpoint here that I would love to understand more about from like maybe the whole LGBTQ community would be, couldn't there have been another word chosen other than they to describe if that's how they want to identify? You know what I'm saying? Like that word was already taken, and now it's confusing when you hear it, and you have to decipher what exactly is happening. Like, shouldn't there have been another word chosen other than he, she, or they to if you want to identify as they because you don't want to identify as male or female? And it's just like that word was taken. How come you took the word? Like, can't you choose a different word? Couldn't there have been an invented word? Couldn't we have gone down that road? But now, hey, they are coming over. They are. But that was already being used. Now I don't know that's my only thing is like, we should have came up with a different term. I'd have been happy to help, you know?
I'm with you on the let me be me. My thing is if I kind of parallel it and give it an analogy to it, I am married to a white woman, German Italian woman. Okay, as you can see, is I'm a Negro. I'm proud to be one. You know, what I know is that people on both sides of our family, her family, my family. If I was a betting man, I could probably pick out a few people on both sides that when we first got married, it wasn't something that was like, all right. It was more of a, why? Come on.
Yep.
Hey, but guess what? Everybody has their opinion, and that's cool. Nobody has to sleep with me or argue with me or cook for me, you know? You don't like it? That's great. But on the same respect, I'm not going to go kick it with my wife over at whether they're family or not. I'm just not going to go kick it over there because it's you don't want to be where you're not wanted. I mean, that's facts. I can respect it. Just don't be two-faced about it and smile in my face. And then when we leave, you got all kind of swirl jokes. Man, tell me the swirl jokes. I love a good joke, you know? But
except in their case, there's a chance that there's some meaning behind it if they're not comfortable with the situation. You know.
Hey, at the end of the day, the way I look at it is, we're all black when the lights go out, and
we're all black when the lights go out. And if you go far back enough in human history,
we're all
black anyway. That's how I look at it when I'm trying to justify why I like the music I like.
But it's facts. You know, I was reading something the other, or maybe you even told me this. If you look up Africa, the actual meaning of it used to be called something else. This would be something when we start that up.
We'll have a little, something somewhere here where I'll just be able to pull it up.
Africa itself was a word that was given to that country, that continent, but it used to be called something else that literally broke down into the word Garden of Eden.
Interesting. Yeah. So Ethiopia, the birthplace of society, the modern day Ethiopia, that area. This is something where if I was independently wealthy, I would dive into and be some sort of like guru on ancient African history, because the moment you discover any inkling of what 10,000 years ago it was like in Africa, that at least to our understanding today, it's absolutely fascinating. And you're upset because no one's told you this stuff before. And like, you just didn't learn. All you really knew about growing up was the pyramids of Egypt. And most people don't know Egypt is in Africa, right?
Right.
Oh, it's Egypt? They think of Egypt as a totally different, but that's Northern Africa. It's still Africa, and Africa being 3 times the size of our our country.
Ooh, but when you look on the map, it's like, it's crazy.
So, you can go back to ancient Nubia, what was their influence on Egypt, and then when Egypt was invaded, and then their knowledge was taken, and then just credited by Romans and Greek philosophers and so forth. That stuff all goes back to Egypt, back to ancient Nubia,
all of it.
Yeah, and it's when you learn that, you can see, well, you know what? If I was a white guy back then and I didn't want people to know that, I definitely whitewashed the hell out of that stuff. And unfortunately,
let's call it the Dark Ages.
The Dark Ages.
The Dark Ages.
So man. That's a whole topic I'd be happy to dive into someday with someone expert that could, I could learn a lot from. But I've gone down a bunch of rabbit holes down this way, and it leads to some very fun and interesting locations. So there's
Well,
this.
and even when you think about it too, is Africa, America, and this. I don't know if this is a farce because you almost gotta look at everything in our history books that you and I have read growing up to this point now. Are you guys lying to us? Have you lied to us our whole lives? But that what they do talk about is Pangea when it was all
Sure, that
together.
was millions of years ago, but who knows? You know what I'm saying? That's a question I have. So it's not necessarily a lie, I don't think, because lie would it would imply disinformation,
Right.
which is knowingly passing along incorrect
Right.
information. There's a
Right.
lot of people out there spreading misinformation, thinking that they're doing the right thing. Like, for example, our textbooks today still have some of the stuff that we already know isn't true any longer.
Shout out to Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, yeah, Columbus. So I just learned the other day, man, these warthog pigs that are like a massive environmental issue across the entire country now. These pigs that started in the southeast and they just continue to multiply, and now they're all as far up as like New Jersey and New York and all the way across the West Coast. They came over with Columbus, and he came with like 6 pigs, and now there's millions across the entire country just destroying farmland, etc. I mean, like you can go take a helicopter tour and just shoot pigs from the air because that's how bad they needed to get rid of them. Where just stuff like that, man. That's another credit to Columbus. Thanks, man.
I blame myself after I got done reading the Bible through. One of the things that really landed on my brain is that pork is probably not something I want to eat. I don't know why. I'm not telling everybody to stay away from pork. It's just something I don't do. And shout out to bacon, though. Pork bacon is probably the best thing on earth. But
I can't imagine being able to totally get rid of that. And my family is delicious.
oh man, ain't nothing like a bacon cheeseburger. Ain't nothing like it with some. Anyway,
Yeah.
go
No,
on.
I hear you, man. It's my sister's that way. She doesn't eat none of that stuff, man. It's all kosher.
Nah,
So,
and I, I'm not a big like kosher guy. Just certain things. I remember I ballooned up when we were pregnant with Z. Well, when Marie was pregnant with Z.
Yeah.
And I ballooned up, man. I got to 220 pounds, and you guys can't tell out there, but I'm 5'9", 10 on a real good day, good shoes. But man, I was 220 pounds. Like it wasn't nothing but where I worked, we had a burger joint across the street, and they had chili cheese fries with bacon. Cheeks got all big and everything.
Hey, you're talking to a guy who loves to eat. It's a problem, man.
But I'm gonna get back to my point about because I don't mean any disrespect to anybody, but I do want to get this point out. You had a very interesting question, like why do they use the they term? My question would be is simply why are we making such a big deal about what people do behind closed doors? It almost irks me about that community. No disrespect, but you're not X-Men. You know what I'm saying? You're not any different. You just choose a different method of how you dress, okay, and what you do behind closed doors. And to me, we're
Well, I wouldn't say it's more of a societal recognition the way I take it. Sure, it's behind closed doors from like from the gay community, I guess, but like they're trying to not hide who they are. So Chappelle had a good agreement here, or a good argument, I think I took from one of his controversial stand-ups, was the point that I think he was making, or at least the way that I received it, was damn, that movement sure made a lot of progress real fast.
Yeah.
And you can turn it on and off when you want.
right.
And his point was like, how am I supposed to turn off blackness? You know what I'm saying? Like, so, man, the amount of, and by no means am I ever going to speak for anyone in the black community, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? But like the way I took what Chappelle was saying was, man, we've been through hundreds and hundreds of years of this shit, and we still haven't really made it as far
Right.
as, we want to be. And how long have they been at it? And they're further along, you know what I'm saying?
Well, and I've always been told when you have a question about history or things that have gone on or going on today, you always follow the money. And so I would say, I think that, again, this is kind of piggybacking off of Chappelle, who is deciding to live this lifestyle now? And when you find out who is really living this lifestyle, you can tell why movements have gone on. But we don't. We probably shouldn't talk about this because we don't mean any disrespect to anybody. But just question.
Hey, it's just two ignorant dudes trying to figure it out.
Trying to figure it out.
But so I'm along, man. Like I mentioned, man, I have no problem with anybody doing anything. If you're a man and you truly feel like you're supposed to be a woman or vice versa, go be that. You know what I'm saying? The only challenge that I have is when it comes to athletic competitions and you're a biological male and now you declare yourself as female. Like, I understand the point. If I'm a female and I've trained in my sport or even at Little League, high school, college, whatever the case is, and then some dude comes in who 3 weeks ago decided he was a woman or a year or 2 years or whatever the case is, you have a distinct biological advantage in this competition. I understand the points there. And I just, man, that would suck.
Which brings up another question. You can do what you want to do, but again, you can't run away from facts. You know, if you were born
biologically.
Yeah. So I know I think about Ben Shapiro when I have this conversation because I don't always agree with that guy, but
nope.
Sometimes he spits facts that are just like
he's an intelligent dude. You can listen to him. I don't mind listening to people I disagree with.
And facts are facts. Yeah. And so okay, you want to be recognized and you want to do that freely. Well, this is America. Freely go do it.
Yep.
But to your point about the sports, I do find that incredibly. There was a young lady down in Oklahoma who was going through the transition to be a man in high school, and I didn't know they had girl wrestling. But shout out to girl wrestlers.
Went into the girls' team and dominated, probably.
Right? Yeah, but my thing is right there. That's kind of the hypocrisy for me. That particular case and other cases like it. Okay, you want to be a man, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Free. Well, then how come you don't want to go compete with the men?
Yeah, man. These are things I don't have answers for. You know what I'm saying? But I do find it interesting. I understand the point. You know, from an athletic standpoint, man. It's just that there's got to be a solve here, and there's got to be some understanding on those that are looking to transition, that are biologically male, that now want to compete in female sports. I mean, I'd love to hear their stories and understand why, you know, my thinking is something that they would disagree with, because I'd be happy to hear their side of it. I don't have a lot of that I know of transitioned friends that I'd love to get their perspective. The fact that it's so openly out there from a identification standpoint, I think it causes confusion in vulnerable ages as well.
Yeah, and I don't sweat that either. Yeah, you know, because you talk about give you an example. We'll just talk about me. Okay. Piece of shit me. We'll talk about me. I know growing up, I was a boob man. You know what I mean? I was a boob man. But as I've gotten older, it's that rump roast that catches my eye.
Is that right? Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And so I say that to say this. You know, when I was in that phase of liking the up toppers, that was in my teenage years. And now that I'm 45, point being is that who knows who they are at 14, 15 years old. And if we're allowing people to make life-changing, altering decisions on something so
surgical modifications.
Yeah, like that's permanent.
Back. Yeah, you can't.
And so if you are somebody who thinks that I am, because remember we had these things called tomboys when we were growing up.
Yep.
Just the young lady who didn't want to be dainty, didn't want to put on a dress, you know. Now it's like you're telling that girl, and typically those girls turned out to be finer than, hotter than fish.
Knew quite a few growing up. Now I think those, quote, tomboys that we would have had the term, now I think that there's probably a nudge, a consistent nudge while they're in that phase to be like, well, maybe you should think about being a boy.
Right.
And that's got to be confusing.
Absolutely.
In an already stage that's approaching probably one of the most confusing stages of life, which is the teenage years.
Right. And if you're not a good looking girl, you know what I mean? You're not a good looking girl and you go to school. You and I are both blessed to live in an area of, you know, not the most affluent, but certainly not poverty.
Man, no complaints.
Certainly not in a poverty stricken area, either one of us. But imagine being a young lady in one of our communities. You're not good looking. Your parents don't have a whole bunch of money. Well, little Beth down the street, she went and got her lips done. You know,
Man.
she was already kind of pretty, but now she's a 10, and you're sitting here. You know, nothing's growing for you. You're not necessarily, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I hear you, dude.
It's like, well, gosh, and
hearing you delicately walk this talk track
it's tough.
Yeah,
but think of how tough it is for these young ladies. It's like I was saying, if you're a naturally pretty woman now, when you get to college, there's nothing unique about you. Okay, well, makeup.
How many followers do you have? Oh, you only got 2,000.
That's crazy. And it's like, and now it's an attention seeking thing. Let me do the most outlandish thing to be popular. And really, it's like my pops used to tell me all the time, man, popular is, it's so fleeting. It's like money. Like, you can be popular today and you could be the butt of all the jokes tomorrow. And it's like, we're literally basing our society on what's popular, what's trendy. And it's scary, and we're not paying attention to the things that are families, the necessity for food. You know, we're sitting here talking about emergency plans for different things if there were issues that popped off, and these are things we're not. I think every community, especially, we should have like a community bank of food. I don't see why that's a.
Well, at this point, when it comes to emergency preparation, I just need to figure out a way to where we're cool for a couple of months. I don't even have that. Like right now, you know, literally, if you went to Hy-Vee and like people were panicked and you walked in there and there was only like one box of cereal left on the shelf, and then you're like, oh, damn, what happened? I missed the news. You turn on the news, you know what I mean? Supply chains disrupted, EMP attack, or you wouldn't even have that. You wouldn't even know because all of the communication would be down, right? So it'd be mass confusion instantly. And then, you know, within a week or two, your neighbors that you were buddies with, you know, last month are in a desperate situation, and you can't trust desperation.
Give me your ramen.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's crazy, you say that, and the first thing, being that I'm in the transportation industry, the first thing I think about is Tesla's coming out with these electric trucks.
What the hell was that beep? Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did.
Where'd it come from?
I'm not sure. It sounded.
Oh, well.
These electric trucks, and it's like, well, wait a minute, why would you do that?
Yep.
Why would you do that?
I think safety. You don't have. I mean, there's technological advantages, of course, but then you have a major workforce that gets displaced, right? Which is one of them. I forget the exact stats, but the trucking and the shipment industry obviously being displaced puts millions of people out of work, which then furthers the challenge of, I guess, how are we going to make ends meet as a society right now? It gets more and more top heavy.
Well, like you said, the EMP though, like if everything is running off
Oh,
electricity,
right on, okay.
Boom.
Yep.
It's one thing for the supply chain to be disrupted because Highway 10, I-10 is, somebody blew it up and 200 miles of I-10 is gone. Supply chain disrupted.
Yep.
I can still you can still hop into your truck, start it up on gas, and maybe make a way down, New Mexico.
Yep.
Phoenix. You can still make your way. Maybe you don't take I-10, you got to take some back roads. But if there's an EMP situation and everything's running off electricity, we can't run our trucks because.
The way I understand an EMP, though, it would take out almost all modern day vehicles that have any type of computer chip technology, which is almost any computer.
Oh.
Like you have to go back to you'd have to be driving like a 1967 Mustang with no computer chip tech at all in order to still have a working vehicle.
So is that technological advancement, or is that technological you're setting yourself up for failure?
Yeah, you're putting yourself more and more vulnerable, making yourself more and more vulnerable to some type of attack like that. These are just the things that I sit around as a dad and think about. Like, damn, because in the when Texas froze over, this was was it after COVID? 2020?
Yeah.
Whenever that was, it might have been pre-COVID if I think about it. can you imagine COVID and Texas freezing over at the same time or about the same time? I'd have to look it up. Regardless,
Now, is that when Ted Cruz? I am gonna say his name because I just thought this was a
pretty sure that's when the dude went to Mexico.
Yes.
When yeah.
shout out to our government guys and women. Like, come on, some of you guys need to get on the boat. Like, just for real, man. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, it's almost like they're playing games behind the scenes and making us scramble. But that, to me, that was such a indicative of what our government has been doing the last 10 years. Just nothing.
Yeah, what did he say? A couple things and then bounce out of town. And it was a text chain that his wife was on with their neighbors, seeing if anybody wanted to go to Cancun. And one of their friends leaked it, being like, hey, here's what the cruises are doing during this crisis, right? And so anyway, Texas froze over. That was an eye-opening moment for myself, saying, what am I going to do if that happens here? Because if it happens in Texas, man, that could happen in, Kansas. And I was talking to friends that were in the Southeast, and man, their attitudes were like, oh, that doesn't happen here. Well, it doesn't happen in Texas either. You know what I'm saying? And as climate continues to shift and there's more erratic climate movements and weather patterns that we just don't understand or can't expect or aren't.
Africa cracking in half.
Yeah. Florida could potentially freeze over and no one's thinking about it. Now, they're obviously, no one's prepared for this type of stuff. But that's my point is like, what's the escape pod? What's the survival plan that as a dad, I think we're responsible for? Because can you imagine right now, something does go down and, what is today, Wednesday? What if it's Saturday and your kids are looking at you like, Dad, what are we going to do? And you're like, damn, I don't know. But that's going to be that's your responsibility as a protector of the family to have a plan. And if you don't have a plan, man, you just
Worlds of Fun is closed.
You fail. Yeah, right. No doubt.
Well, let me ask you, I'll ask you this, dad question of the day for you.
Mm-hmm.
We both have our kids in extracurricular activities, and
yep.
I think we would both love the idea of our kids being some sort of sports star or some sort of. The reality is, though, you and I don't know a 13-year-old kid who's going to make it to the pros, and at this point in time, you really have to question: is there going to be pros when they get age? I mean, that's a legitimate question. How long can you keep doing that? But hopefully, sports are still around. But one of the things I've really been, as a dad, focused on is expanding all three of my boys, their brains, into what are you going to do in life? So my question to you is, what are some of the things you're maybe nudging your kids on as far as what they're going to do when they become working adults in society?
Well, so critical thinking is something that I think is lacking just with, the fact that the moment you have an open moment, just in whatever it is you're doing, you can then revert back and look at your phone and that fills up your mental space. Mm-hmm. So I'm very conscious, and my kids hear this ad nauseum about how imagination is the most powerful thing that they have. Mm-hmm. And that if and when they are bored, that's using your imagination and continuing to develop it. So in terms of like, one, I want them to understand how important it is for their own mind to be able to still think. Mm-hmm. Because, technology is a problem, screen time's a problem. We have that problem in my household, and it's, a daily topic of discussion. So we put parameters around that stuff, and I still don't think we're doing enough. But I'll consciously take screens away and make them go be a kid, or have some sort of recognition of, I can think and go play and still have fun without a screen being involved.
Right.
So that's kind of level one. Level two is I ask them the questions and make them, they don't have good answers yet. They don't have thinking skills, but I'm honest with them. I mean, we'll talk about, for example, when it was kind of dawning on me that I need to be more prepared in terms of what do we do if I had that conversation with my daughter on a walk. Like, not trying to scare you, but unfortunately, hey, climate change, I think, is absolutely happening, and it's happening more rapidly than we anticipated. Mm-hmm. I mean, just look at what California's experienced the past 12 months, right? There's all kinds of examples, but that's not changing, even though it's a nice, slow little every year, just like, oh man, that's worse, or oh dang, we didn't have that happen before, whatever the case is. The trend seems to be obvious. And if you want to deny it, go ahead, that's fine. I'm just honest with my kids about it. Like, this is a challenge that's not just for your generation. This is something that we're going to experience together. Like, because it's not like I'm being, 40, I'm 42. It's not like by the time I'm 65, it's going to be better, right? It's getting worse every single year, it seems like. And I just, hate to have a doomsday mentality. But the second part is I'm just straight up and try to be as honest as I can without using some sort of scare tactic, right? And look, the fact is your generation is going to be responsible for either bearing the brunt of the consequences or coming up with solutions to this.
Absolutely.
And so, critical thinking, imagination, and just being honest so that when they're thinking about their future, that's just an underlying thing that they might want to be involved with.
Absolutely.
I'm open to ideas, obviously. There's no manual here. But that's, then you do all the things that a parent should do. Be encouraging, spend time with them, be interested in what they do, ask questions about what they do, show them what you're doing. When you learn something, share it with them. The leadership stuff that you can, you've coached and managed, young kids. You understand what makes them tick. You got to have fun with them. You got to be the boss sometimes, whatever the case is. But I just try to be as involved as possible and just be honest as to the extent that you can.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's, there's a lot of entitlement, There's a lot of
turn on the news. Turn on the news. It should be NC-17. Like, you can't, like, it's not like the graphics are what's like, the alarming point that needs to be censored. It's just the complete repetitive negative information on the world, man. If you like, legitimately, my kids have watched the news with me and then been scared.
Right.
At the end of the 10 or 15 minutes.
Right.
And so it's like, damn. But then you walk outside, it's a freaking nice day out.
Right.
Right? Birds chirping.
Right.
There's kids down at the park.
And it almost makes you, it's funny you bring that up because I still believe, and I believe just because we're here, we're healthy, all the things we were talking about, doomsday, you don't see that right now. I believe there's still a lot more good going on in this country, in the world, than there is bad. I still believe that. But to your point, if you turn on the news, that's not the case.
Oh,
and it's like good news doesn't sell,
No, it doesn't.
And that's terrible because that is part and parcel why I think you have things like school shootings, because it's so, to me, I know if I was elected president, I'd be dead in 2 days, because there'd be a lot of people that lose a lot of money just because I would certain things. But like,
I'd vote for you over any of the candidates that I know of.
Shut up.
I'd vote for anyone I know over any. You know what I'm saying?
Man,
and we don't even go down that road. But
and it's like, for me, because one of the things I hate about these school shootings, not to go back to it, but just getting our point across here.
That's how we started the episode. Thanks for starting off our first episode on something positive.
Well,
Speaking of,
it's something we got to talk about because it's like we're dads.
No doubt.
We're husbands, and if it's me, because one of the things I don't like is every time there's a school shooting, what do you always? The common thing is, oh, then they turned on themselves and they died. I think if you have one that survives, I think you make a point. Instead of UFC being pay-per-view, man, make it on channel, whatever the main channel is in your community, but make it like a national broadcast. This dude right here shot up a school. Instead of making it a media fiasco, a media like frenzy.
Yeah.
Man, take every day, take a fingernail, chop a finger. Like, make it a point that if you ever do this in this country, we are going to make a spectacle of your demise. And I think that's part of it. But we make a spectacle in court. We spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions, billions of dollars in court. Oh, was this person guilty? Come on, you got the footage and you just mowed down
no doubt. That is
20
always
people.
You still have to be cautious legally if you're a media organization saying this is the alleged shooter that we have firsthand footage. They broadcasted it live from the channel, all the security cameras. You know what I'm saying? And the manifesto.
And then you have things like, oh well, he's crazy. No shit. Like crazy ass. We're gonna make a mock. We are going to make an extreme example of you. And to me, it's again, we have all this money to go to the moon. Let's go to Mars. Let's check out if Pluto's cool. Wait, time out. Is it so far-fetched if we have that kind of money? Why is there just not a cop at every school?
I don't think that solves it though.
It doesn't.
Yeah. So,
but can we at least start there? Can we at least have a cop there to where you at least make that shooter think, how am I going to get by Barney Fife first?
Yeah,
these cats are walking, and I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, but my boys at Highlands Elementary School, Fairway, Kansas is probably one of the best areas in the country. Just being honest, one of the best areas in the country, and predominantly white. And the only reason I bring that up is typically because the money and the taxes and everything. Your predominantly white neighborhoods have better schools. It's because unfortunate.
The neighborhoods, the taxes from the real estate of those neighborhoods filter to the schools. So
and the design was that way.
But
anyway,
yep.
School shooting there, and it was a cat who's, if I'm not mistaken, not to throw Trump in our, but the guy
almost made it through without. I think our first conversation we never even said his name, which was great.
The young man who shot up the school was the grandson of a guy who's really good friends with that guy. And I only bring that up because when you looked at the young man's rap sheet, he was crying out for help, and his rap sheet was longer than, 3 people's average rap sheet. He just a long rap sheet.
Still got guns somehow or whatever, yeah.
And he lived right across he lived right across the street from the school. Just woke up one day and decided to start shooting at the school. And,
well, he's desensitized to it most likely through video games where he's playing shoot 'em up games all the time. So it's just kind of in the back of his mind, right? It's, when you ever play a video game for a lot during the day and then like when you're trying to fall asleep, you're still seeing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe that's, I'm not making excuses by any means for anybody. It's a terrible situation. I don't have all the solves. And then, it's a standstill from a political standpoint on how to make changes that would actually impact anything.
Well, it's definitely a standstill if they're at a golf course.
True.
You know what I'm saying? And that's another thing too. Like it used to be, it seems like in my lifetime, it shifted where, your politicians always had their power and their own individual agendas. I get that, but it just seems like in the last 45 years of my life, it's gone from, like we talked about Ted Cruz earlier. It just seems like that kind of thing wouldn't have happened 30 years ago. Ted Cruz would have been on the ground, on ground zero there in Texas, trying to make sure that things worked out right, because he knew people wouldn't vote for him going forward. But now it's almost like we work for them as opposed to them working for us.
So I'm of the belief that the system is irrevocably broken, and whichever side you choose to be on, you're simply, choosing a side that is a part of the same coin, right? I think that anyone who follows a political movement, like with extreme passion, like you see in some of our political leaders today, that's just weird. Number one, that ties into like our celebrity culture more than it does with any type of person who has a genuine interest in making change. But even if someone did have the celebrity or the money or the ability and the know-how and the demeanor and the intelligence to go in there and make a difference, the system's broken top to bottom, in my opinion. Corporatocracy seems to be a much more relevant term than democracy, and I'm no expert, so I'm sure someone here who knew what they were talking about could sit down and rattle all kinds of cool facts at me and make me seem like I'm an idiot. But, I'm not convinced your vote matters. I still vote just in case it does. You know what I'm saying? But I have one vote. I'm not spending millions of dollars to sway opinions. No one's coming to me for what should our stuff be like? And I'm not interested in politics either.
Right.
Like, 10 years ago, I would read all the stuff, try to be Mr. Cool on what's going on and understanding what's happening. Now, like, man, I'm going to focus on being a good person, hanging out and doing what I can for my family and my friends and my neighborhood, and having really most of my energy and time directed towards where I can actually make an impact.
Right.
Because you and I can sit here and have all the problems solved and nothing's going to change.
Right.
We're not, that's what I really enjoy about political discussions with friends is I usually try to enter the conversation. One, look, dude, I don't give a fuck.
Right.
One, like, I don't care.
Right.
So, and two, it's broken. So if I can enter in with that as like, hey guys, it's already broken and I don't care, then, if we're differing on opinions, hopefully tensions don't rise much. But then I love it when people get super passionate about it. Like, we're solving it in this conversation. And no matter what we say right here, nothing's changing, man. So.
And probably it's funny you say that, because I think probably the most influential thing that has happened in our lifetime politically, that would have changed the course, I think, of history. But obviously, whoever they are, not they that we were talking about, whoever the puppet masters are in terms of controlling what's going on in our country and our world,
that's what I want to learn more about.
Right.
I want to figure. Not that I'm going to change what they're doing,
right?
But I would sure like to understand a little bit more about what is happening, right?
Well, it seems, especially like we were talking about with the U.S. dollar not being traded or used for trade all the time now for a lot of countries. I think we're definitely shooting towards that global, that one.
If I mean, it'd be interesting to see how that shapes up. One unified, what was the term that has been used? I'll think of it in a second. So I did want to go back to your point, though. Ratings, negativity, the society's attraction towards negative news. Mm-hmm. I think it's an instinctual trait that we developed throughout our evolution as a species, right? Rewind 100,000 years, you're out gathering some berries and you hear a little twig snap in the woods. Well, when there's a gap of information and we don't know it's a gap, it's a variable, we don't know what it is. It's our tendency as a species to fill in that gap of information with something negative because it served as a very useful survival trait for, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. I mean, imagine, the last ice age, saber-toothed tiger is out there roaming around and you saw him from a cave like a half a mile away or something. And but your family's still hungry. So you got to go out there. Right. You hear that snap. You're not going to look at it, go investigate, see what that twig was. You're going to get the hell out of there as quick as you can. You're going to assume something negative.
Right.
And so, one of the, I don't know how to fix this, but people need to be aware of that tendency first, that is something that doesn't serve us as well today, right? Because it feeds into just negative bias, negative assumptions towards other people, negative. We definitely have a bloodlust in our society. That's why we're attracted to negative news, right? So you go on there, you see all this stuff, and it's all horrible, and you don't feel better afterwards, but you still watched it. And that's what proves right. You're not going to turn on the news. All right, today, Christian and Rich went down to the grocery store and helped a lady pack her groceries into her trunk of her car.
Right.
Tonight at 10. That's not gonna happen, right? It's murder, potential war, famine, some outrageous, natural disaster coverage, and then weather and sports coming up after the break. You know what I'm saying?
And to your point, we went to Emporia State together.
Yep.
And I believe the year before you got there, the women's basketball team was not just good; they were like super elite good.
They were definitely the stud team of the
they
university.
They were awesome, and the reason